Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Rob Smith back again for Combat Sports UK, and delighted to be joined by Veronica Hardy, leading up to a UFC 309 fight. Veronica, how you doing?
I'm all good. I'm so excited.
You can see the excitement in your face. So we'll jump straight into it. You're fighting Eduardo Mora at UFC 309, a big fight. And one of my first questions, and I'm always curious, when you got the call to say, "Oh, we've got you a fight at UFC 309, one of the biggest cards of the year," what was your immediate reaction to that?
Well, I was very annoying about being on the card. I messaged Mick and I think I tagged him in about 8,000 photos. So it was more like, oh, please. And then him telling me, well, there's no space, it's already booked. And I'm like, I'm messaging you way in advance. So when I finally did, I couldn't believe it. I was actually with a friend of mine from training. I was in New York at the time. Because I just decided to come in and train. I needed things to improve in this department anyway. So I come to New York for like 6 weeks to get an incentives training here. And I was on my way to a comedy club. And it was like on the walk that I just checked Instagram, and it was like, it was Mig send me a message, opponent's name, and he's like at MSG. And I was like, oh my God. No way. And like the whole comedy club, I was just like, you can say anything, I'll laugh right now.
I assume that's like most fighters' dreams, MSG, New York. That's got to be a surreal feeling. I think, especially for you, I think you can see the energy on your face. I'm assuming you're feeling very good at going into this fight camp.
Yes. Well, I think it's MSG is, of course, is very special. I feel New York is such a phenomenal place. I feel like everybody once in their lifetime should at least see New York, not only for the architecture and the buildings and stuff, but for the people. It's incredible how you have people from all over the world living together, being fully themselves, like, and you'd see everything and anything mixed together on the same street. It's something bizarre and quite beautiful of humanity. So to fight here and to fight a place where I train, and a place that has given me so much personally and as a martial artist, I feel that's really special.
And so we'll talk about the fight. We'll talk about your fight. You're fighting Eduardo Mora. What sort of stuff do you know about your opponent? Have you done a lot of research into her?
Yes, well, as much as there is, there's not much research. There's not much video footage of her fights before. The Contender is where, the first like real one was. But she's from Jalton Almeida's team. That's like straight takedown to ground and pound to submission. That's like the game plan of the entire gym. So it's quite interesting just because it's going to be in New York, and New York is where I train grappling. So yeah, I find that part to be quite ironic, but I'm very excited. I think it's like pretty obvious where she wants this fight to be and what she wants to do, and I'm sure she's been training incredibly hard, just because it's such a big opportunity. Everybody on the card has been training because it's such a good opportunity for exposure as well as the honor to be here. So that's what I'm expecting from her.
And does that make your life easier or harder when you kind of know you kind of have an idea of what your opponent's game plan's going to be? You kind of mentioned how you believe she's going to go for the takedowns. Does that make your training easier, or is it kind of like it kind of cause you to like overthink certain scenarios?
I think it's good in the way that it helps me evolve as a fighter, because it focuses on a certain aspect, so it really shines a light on everything, and you have to be so in detail about the positions where you're going to go, different aspects of it to truly understand it. So in that aspect, I quite enjoy it because, like I said, it helps really improve a certain area. As well as, of course, you have your things that you want to work on and that you want to implement. But when it's something overall, like for me, I find it a lot easier to improve in sections than I do just overall at everything. And that usually doesn't come to show, because if you overall get better at everything, maybe it didn't show in the fight, or maybe you weren't, so people would just think like, oh, it's she's just the same person that she was like a few months ago, or a few fights ago. There is no evolution, and with this, it pinpoints that aspect. So I quite like it.
And see, entering this fight on the best streak of your career, you've won 3 in a row. What sort of changes did you make to kind of where did this streak come from? Is there any specific changes that you made in training camp, or was it just at the time just seemed to align, and now you're really hitting the stride in your career?
Well, I mean, I think everything in my life has changed. It was like a whole 180. Uh, I think having the right people around me has been the biggest change, and taking away those that don't suit me or that don't align with me. Um, I was quite ruthless at taking them out, because it's been so many years where I hadn't, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it'll be okay, and clearly wasn't. It wasn't. I wouldn't have hit rock bottom so badly if it was okay. And of course, having Dan has been such he's changed my life in ways way beyond MMA and way beyond a win streak or whatever. It's somebody who's helped me as a person improve, and I'm just so grateful for him and all the people he has allowed me to meet based off him. So that's the biggest change.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and for me, I remember speaking to him at PFL Newcastle a few months back, and for me, he's one of the greatest minds in the sport. I don't think you get many people who love the game as much as he does. He was telling me how in his house he's got a board just full of fighters' names for potential matches and stuff. So I think having someone in your corner like that, that's going to benefit you so much in your career. So kind of explain me through that. Like, can you even describe how much of a benefit he's had?
Like I said, he has been everything really. Because it's not only like, if you look at the fight and your coaches can tell you, oh, this person does this and that. Like, it's so much deeper than that, where you have to truly improve and to truly get better. You have to just go so much deeper than jab cross double leg or whatever other technique somebody gives you. You have to understand fighting. You have to understand fighters' mentality. You have to understand the circumstances, how to control your own emotions, so you approach the fight in a much more mature way, so you're not making so many mistakes, so your decision making is a lot better, and where and when, and the fast reactions that you need to showcase. It's all been such a long process, because I had 3 years out, but it was 3 years of me truly learning and understanding MMA, which I very much needed, as well as a bit of a break physically. And that has just played so much in the way that I approach it. Like, I feel more sure of myself, because it doesn't feel like a giant chaotic mess where it's just two people going at each other. There's pathways now, and understanding that, and understanding how you can utilize it, how you can play things on your opponent. It has made it so much more interesting as well, because you can see all the layers and the games that within games that you can play. And for somebody to open your eyes and open your mind to something like that, of a sport that you've been doing for so long and that you love and hold, in such high regard, is something beyond any gift anybody could ever give me.
As you kind of mentioned about your 3 years out there, was that kind of just like you need just like a mental break from the sport? And since you've come back, like you said, you've won 3 in a row. Now this is the best. It's the best streak in your career. So do you think that 3 years out was really needed from you? Because I think a lot of fighters, they talk about activity, and sometimes I think breaks are quite underrated in this sport. People refuse to kind of take time off when maybe they should do, because I think that they don't want to fall behind in this sense. But I think sometimes breaks, like you said, you took 3 years off and you've never looked better. So I think sometimes breaks need to. Would you say that it was a much needed time in your career, that 3 years out?
Well, the 3 years wasn't something that I like planned. I wasn't like, oh, I should take some time off and get better. I had really bad concussions, so it was a forced break, where I couldn't train. I couldn't really do anything physically for quite a while, and it was just affecting my everyday life. But within that, it helped me understand myself and get my priorities straight, and understand the perspective that I needed to, and what it took for me to be successful, because I didn't really understand before. It's not like I didn't train hard. It's not like I didn't show up to training every day, but I was training wrong. I was doing things incorrectly, and I didn't understand that. And it's the definition of stupid to continue to do that when it's not working. But I didn't know what else to do. Um, so Yeah, I do believe that sometimes if you think you're going to take a break, everybody's going to get ahead. Like I got signed when I was 20, and I thought like I need to do it now because I'm old, and I was just like, dude, you needed to learn. You need to sit down and learn some stuff. So it did help me, but it helped me because I put in the work. You know, if you take 3 years off and you don't do anything towards it, you're going to come back, then you're going to be behind because everybody's been working for 3 years. You do need to work. You just have to realize that there's other aspects that isn't just physical, that there is many aspects of this game that is involved and that is showcased and that makes a lot of difference, that I don't think it's given, right? Because people say, oh, it's 80% mental, 20% physical. Who helps you with the mental though, other than telling you to go to a life coach and like go see a therapist, or like that's not really helping, in my opinion. Like, what does this life coach know anything about fighting, or what it takes to like the process, how to manipulate how I feel and stuff, like how what do they really know about that? So I was just like, I'm not doing that. Like, so to have somebody that understands and that helps me through that has been so beneficial. And if anything, I feel quite ashamed that he's only doing it for me because he's so incredible, you know? And I'm just like, man, you're like wasting your talents on me. Like
I don't
you
think
should
he'd
be
agree with that
training
at all.
somebody like so much better. I'm sorry you're stuck with me.
I'm sure he'd wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's my husband. He's supposed to say no. If he doesn't, he's a bad husband.
And so we'll kind of talk back to the fight. So obviously you mentioned how you've won 3 in a row now. Do you think a win over Mora could potentially put you in a fight for maybe a top 15 spot?
I think so because I thought maybe after Aldrich that I might have gotten that opportunity because you know Aldrich is like anybody who's been able to beat Aldrich, which is not many people if you look at her UFC
Yeah,
record.
she's beat some really good people, Eldridge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's beaten 3 times more people than I have. You know, like going in was my like she was like 9-3, and I was what like 400 losses and 2 wins. You know, and so I thought that would like help me out. So I was quite surprised that I got somebody who's 1-1. You know, it's like it's quite a big place to fall from Eldridge. But then again, this would get me on a winning UFC record. So I don't know if it's something that they were looking at because of my previous losses. They know like, well, we're not going to give her somebody top 15 unless she has a positive record in the UFC. So maybe this was a fight that was needed. But like I said, also this for MSG, the card was full, and maybe she was just the only person that was available. And I just didn't really care as long as I got on the card.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I think like you mentioned, I think you're just getting on the card. I think some fighters, you've seen the type of fighter, you'll fight anyone as long as you're like this card. You couldn't say no to this. You could have fought someone who's making a debut. You could have fought someone who's 20-0. I'm sure you would have said yes just to get on this card.
I've said it's a magical city, man.
And so we'll kind of say, like, obviously you're not looking too far ahead, but let's just assume you get the win. That'd be 4 in a row for you. What do you believe we expect from you in 2025? It could be a very big year for you in your career.
I believe so, but I think it depends on how I fight. You know, I don't think it because with the UFC, it's not only about winning. Of course, you can, and it takes a lot longer. You'd have to be on like a super long win streak, like Marab, for example, to start getting the attention that they deserve. Although great fighter, right? Current champion, great fighter. Leon had the same. He had to have a whole load of wins. Islam Makhachev, and then people were like, "Oh, but he's fought nobody and stuff." It's just like, well, he's not the one choosing the fights, is he? But I believe that it's not only about the win streak, but it's also about your performance. And I find my last fight was it wasn't the greatest. It was a bit boring, in my opinion. You know, she was such a veteran. She was waiting for me so much that I had to play such like on an eggshell type of game, and be very mature about that approach. And it's probably not what gets you a top 15 fighter. So I think it would depend a lot on how this fight plays out and what I showcase and how I perform to where I go from there.
So is it safe to say that you're coming to make a statement at UFC 309?
I'm coming to win. If statement comes, if it comes, because if you lose, you're way below than if you try to make a statement.
And so I've got my two final questions are kind of separate, so we'll go one after the other. So my second last question is, obviously you're in New York, and what are some of the biggest cultural differences in training, just in the people that you've noticed being out there?
Um, well, I mean, there is differences in New York, and then there's the difference in where I train at Henzo Academy. And this is something that I thought was so bizarre. So on one of the trainings, a bit of a tangent, on one of the trainings on Sunday, one of my coaches, he just had surgery on his elbow. And of course he's rolling too soon when he shouldn't be after surgery, right? But he told me that his doctor, the surgeon, he trained there, and that's how, like he got in contact with him. And after the training, I go, "Oh, where's your doctor?" So I could tell him that you're not behaving and stuff. And he calls him over, a really young guy, and I'm like, "That's the surgeon? My goodness!" And he starts speaking, and you can tell that he's very intelligent. And then my coach tells him that I have a fight at MSG, and then he tells me, "Oh, that's amazing. You're gonna really enjoy it. The energy there, it's unlike anything else." And then I saw him visually be at MSG. And then he told me, "Yeah, I used to play hockey there." I was like, "Oh, come on, man." Come on. You're like surgeon, great at jiu-jitsu, and you used to play hockey at MSG. Like, get out of here. And it's just like in the gym, you have like doctors, lawyers. Like another one of my coaches was a criminal defense lawyer. Then he became a butcher. Now he's like an ultra. I mean, the level that these guys have mentally and their discipline, it's incredible to be around people like that because they just make you feel like you can do anything. Why, like they didn't stop at just like reaching this. They went way beyond that and they're still thriving. They have no limitation. And then you go in New York and then you see people from all over the world, right? You see people from Asia, from Europe, from South America, and they all live together in such harmony where they can express themselves as truly as they can and they want to and they do, and they radiate such happiness because of that, because they don't feel any constraint. And that is something that is so powerful, and to be able to experience that on a daily basis that challenges you and that teaches you about yourself is something quite beautiful. And I really hope that one day everybody gets to experience an environment like that can really help them evolve as a human.
And my final question is, I'm not sure if you're one for predictions, but I've got to ask anyway. Can we get an official prediction?
Um, I don't know. As long as I win, I don't care.
I'll take that. Just a win. We'll take it. I like it.
Win at MSG, it's all right. That'll make me a cool lot anyway. So.
Right, well, Veronica, I want to thank you for your time. It's been a real pleasure. I assume you're so busy, so I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.